So let's review some of the concepts we've gone over with the Windows Communication Foundation services. So right off the bat, we notice that Windows Communication Foundation has a heavy reliance on configuration. It uses the web config on the server and the app config on the client to control exactly how the server and the client communicate. A few terms that go with the configuration: an endpoint defines the address that the server can send and receive data across. A binding defines the transport and encoding for a specific endpoint. This is stuff like using SOAP envelopes over HTTP. And a behavior controls some of the runtime aspects of a service. This includes things like generating metadata, controlling throttling, credentials, error handling, and other behaviors. These behaviors can also be set at the global, service, endpoint, and operation contract level. Luckily, most of these configuration options are set for us by default, so when you add a WCF service to an existing web project, your web config will be automatically configured to support SOAP over HTTP. WCF uses contracts to define services, operations, and data. The service contract attribute is usually on top of a class or an interface definition, and that defines an entire web service. Individual operation contract attributes are marked on top of methods, and the attribute makes that method available to the service. And data contracts, along with data member attributes, control the serialization and deserialization of complex types. WCF uses these three contract attributes to create the web service definition language markup file. Installed with Visual Studio, the WCF test client utility can be used to test your WCF services. The great thing is it works with complex types as opposed to the ASMX services we saw in the previous model. It also allows you to see the sent and received SOAP envelopes. And like I said, it's installed with Visual Studio versions 2008 and up under the following folder. We can add a client reference to a web service by using the Add Service Reference utility in Visual Studio. That will generate local proxy classes for us. The Add Service Reference utility uses the web service definition language file from the web service to generate local interfaces, clients, and transport objects. The generated proxy class on the client handles the communication layer as well as the serialization and deserialization of SOAP envelopes into CLR types. In addition, web service methods can be processed asynchronously by using the generated async implementation on the client. That wraps up our module with WCF Web Services. Our next module will be focusing on WCF Ajax Web Services.